A few days before the biggest World Cup in history, the conversation isn't about football, it's about a world pushing back. Just days remain until the first whistle of World Cup 2026, yet the atmosphere feels less like a celebration and more like a standoff. Six of Europe's most powerful football nations are openly challenging the tournament's integrity. Fans who spent years saving for this moment are suddenly cancelling their flights. Even politicians have stepped onto the pitch, debating if the beautiful game has finally become a pawn for global power plays. This was meant to be the grand expansion. FIFA spent a decade architecting this. 48 teams, 104 matches, and 3 host nations in the most ambitious sporting project ever attempted. But as the world watches, the headlines aren't focused on tactics or star players. They are focused on money, borders, and a singular uncomfortable question. Has FIFA finally pushed the football world too far? World Cup 2026 was designed to be a symbol of unity, but right now it looks like a breaking point. For the first time in the modern era, the magic of the World Cup is being outpaced by the machinery of its own growth. FIFA promised a global festival. What they delivered was a logistical nightmare. The dream was simple: bigger is better. By expanding the tournament from 32 to 48 teams, FIFA promised a more inclusive world stage. But expansion has a price. World Cup 2026 isn't just a tournament, it's a continental endurance test. We are looking at thousands of miles in transit, crossing multiple time zones between matches. Think about the players. Modern football already demands too much from the human body. Now, imagine a star player finishing a high-intensity match in the heat of Mexico City, only to board a 6-hour flight to Vancouver for a knockout game 3 days later. It's no longer about who has the best tactics. It's about who has the best recovery tech and the deepest squad. This nomadic existence turns the World Cup into a game of survival. Critics argue that the quality of football will inevitably drop as fatigue sets in. FIFA saw a frontier of opportunity. Critics see a logistical labyrinth that threatens to exhaust the very players we pay to see, while leaving a carbon footprint that no sustainability report can justify. When the pitch ends, the politics begin. For decades, FIFA's mantra was that football could rise above politics, but 2026 is exposing the fragility of that promise. As the tournament approaches, the beautiful game has collided head-on with 3 different legal systems and a web of geopolitical reality. International travel restrictions and visa bottlenecks have suddenly become more important than a team's 4-3-3 formation. We are witnessing a visa lottery where some fans and even staff members are facing rejection based on their nationality or political climate. Certain federations are in emergency meetings, not about injuries, but about whether their supporters will even be allowed across the border to see their team play. The host nations, the US, Canada, and Mexico, each have their own security protocols, making the United World Cup feel like 3 separate hurdles. The uncomfortable truth is that the world's biggest sporting event is now at the mercy of political decisions far beyond FIFA's control, reminding us that while the ball is round, the world is still full of walls. Organized skepticism is rising from football's traditional heartland. The frustration didn't start in the boardrooms, it started in the stands of Europe. A wave of skepticism is spreading across the continent, uniting fans, executives, and politicians. Public petitions are gaining momentum, and former administrators are openly asking if FIFA has become a state within a state. The core of the anger is the feeling that football's traditional power base is being ignored in the favor of emerging markets and corporate sponsors. European leagues are already stretched to the limit. Adding more matches to the international calendar feels like a declaration of war on domestic football. There's a growing sentiment that football decisions are being made in a vacuum, without meaningful consultation from the communities that actually sustain the game. This isn't just about a few unhappy fans, it's an organized pushback from the very heart of the sport. If the Big Six of Europe decide that the current path is unsustainable, FIFA's global monopoly could face its most significant challenge since its inception. Fans may not have a seat at the table, but they hold the power of the purse. FIFA can ignore critics, but they cannot ignore a market that refuses to buy. For decades, the World Cup was a once-in-a-lifetime pilgrimage. But in 2026, the dream has hit a financial wall, with dynamic ticket pricing, skyrocketing hotel costs, and the necessity of multiple cross-continental flights. The average fan is being priced out of the spectacle. We are losing the soul of the tournament, the working-class fans from Buenos Aires, Casablanca, or Zagreb who bring the noise, the color, and the passion. When you replace them with corporate executives in VIP suites, you change the DNA of the event. Ticket resale markets are behaving erratically, reflecting a growing disconnect. Is this still a tournament for the people, or has it become a luxury product for the elite? As hospitality sectors in several host cities adjust their projections, the reality is setting in. The World Cup's biggest threat isn't a lack of interest, but an excess of greed. And then there is the mirage of economic success. Host cities were promised a gold rush, but the reality for local communities is often far less glittering in the shadow of these billion-dollar stadiums. Small businesses are finding themselves excluded. FIFA's clean zone regulations often prevent local vendors from operating near the venues, ensuring that every dollar spent goes directly to official corporate sponsors. We are witnessing the gentrification of the World Cup, where the local community provides the labor and the infrastructure, but the profits are siphoned away to offshore accounts. While five-star hotels report record bookings, the family-owned restaurant 3 blocks away might see its street closed off by security perimeters. The economic boom is often a top-down phenomenon, leaving the people who actually live in these cities to deal with the debt and the disruption long after the corporate circus has left town. Despite the noise, the ball will eventually roll. And yet, for all the controversy, football possesses a unique gravity. Once the opening whistle blows, the noise of politics often fades. We are still talking about France's terrifying depth, Argentina defending their crown in what might be Lionel Messi's final act, and the arrival of Erling Haaland on the world's biggest stage. Across 104 matches, stories will emerge that no boardroom can predict. This is FIFA's greatest protection, the game itself. No matter how intense the skepticism becomes, the ability of football to capture the human spirit remains unmatched. FIFA knows that as long as there is a ball and a net, the world will eventually look toward the pitch, even if it's sucked with a heavy heart. World Cup 2026 will be the biggest event ever staged. Records will be broken and a champion will be crowned in New Jersey. But beneath the celebrations, another contest is unfolding. The outcome won't be decided in 90 minutes. FIFA's authority is being tested by voices that are finally powerful enough to matter. This tournament is a giant experiment, one that will decide if football can survive its own ambition. Will it remain a global unifier, or will it fracture under the weight of its own commercial demands? Long after the final whistle, the debate over football's future will continue. The decisions made in the wake of this summer will shape the game for an entire generation. We are watching the end of an era and the beginning of something we might not yet recognize. The question remains, who is the World Cup really for?